the opportunity that is business coaching. That's the conversation today on the podcast. Let's jump in. BJ O'Neill here with the Business Coaching Success Podcast. So glad you're here, where I share with you strategies, tools, and tips to be able to grow your business coaching practice to six figures and beyond as a Christian business coach. Let's jump in. Welcome. Glad that you're here on the podcast. Today, just kind of sharing my heart that is the opportunity for business coaching and business strategy. And, what does it really mean? And what's the opportunity for someone as a faith-driven entrepreneur, a leader? Perhaps you have a lot of experience in maybe in the executive world, in the professional world, sales professional, whatever the case may be. You've been around business and you love the idea, and there's a lot of noise about the word coaching. And as it pertains to business coaching, it's like, how does this all fit together, especially as a person of faith? That's what we're going to discuss. If you are not on our coaching team and you've been, getting some information from us, you've been listening to the podcasts, watching some video trainings, you're super curious about how this might be able to work for you, where you're currently at for your next chapter, simply go to businesscoachmastery.com. That's businesscoachmastery.com. You can schedule a quick conversation. We're just going to give you a high-level overview. We're going to give you some resources as well to kind of peruse, just so you can determine if this is worth learning more about or not for you as a believer. Okay, here's the thing. When you look at, I look back 10 years ago, right? There was very little, and that's not the right word. There was not near as much conversation on the internet around business coaching and business strategy. There was in certain ways, certainly with franchises and whatnot. As the internet developed, and you think about like 10 years ago, isn't that long ago? Matter of fact, 10 years ago, we didn't have Zoom. We didn't even have these tools today that we use for podcasts. We didn't have, YouTube was certainly a thing, but not like it is today. And what's happened though is that there's been a distortion of how you can go about to help a business. And to be very fair and frank, that's kind of, I'll call it 15 plus years ago, or almost 16 or 17 years ago, as I began to work with businesses directly myself. No doubt I approached it from a posture and a perspective of how I can help people, which is, there's nothing wrong with that, but then, especially now, you have to have a plan, you have to have a purpose, and you have to have direction. You just can't wing it anymore. And I do use the word anymore because there was a season that we kind of could, but not anymore. When you look at the categories of in any one local market, all right, and no doubt that service-based businesses are by far the largest amount percentage-wise of a business category. And when you look at service-based, we're talking about, HVAC, plumbing, roofing, garage floors, garage doors, and everything that goes in between. Windows, home cleaning. No doubt that category by itself. Well, when you look at any one market, it's more concentrated of competition than ever before. Ever. Maybe you as a consumer, you have experienced that. You've gotten a new door, you've gotten a fence or whatever, and you've called 4, 5, 6 people. Half of them don't respond back because it's just a challenge in that industry for them themselves, by the way, which is one of the reasons we are called to help people, to help businesses. Okay, so my point is that it wasn't quite like that a decade ago, right? Starting a business is arguably, we believe it's more simple than ever, and it's not, but we think that it is. Even AI has kind of distorted that as well, making it appear that things are more simple. I'll just go to ChatGPT and I'll just chat my way through growth. Well, good luck, right? And I'm going to bring it back to, the opportunity that exists. But even for a moment, we'll talk about AI for a second. Even for a moment where, go back, we'll call it even 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you could walk into a Barnes & Noble, a Borders Books, or any local bookseller, and you could get a book on how to lose weight. That book was going to guide you and did guide you through that. Now, we had access to education then. What's the difference? Why isn't, the world just fit when we had education then? Today, there are obviously books, but there's also YouTube videos, courses, and so on. 30 years ago, there was Weight Watchers. You could join a team of people and go physically. Why then is not the world just super fit? Because of discipline and lack of accountability. Because making change is not easy alone. And that's part of the reason why there's such an opportunity for business coaches and business strategists, okay? According to the SBA and some other outlets, there are approximately 1,800 businesses per one business coach, at least in the United States. I'm going to say that again. There are around 1,800 businesses per one business coach. So the idea that the market's flooded or saturated, this is hogwash. Now, again, there is more conversation around it, and here's where people get confused. Because of today's algorithms on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, and so on. If you show interest in something, you're going to start getting fed more of the same thing. And that sends a psychological signal that you believe, well, there's just already a lot out there. No, you're just seeing more of it because of the way the algorithms work. So, and by the way, that should also be a signal for you as a coach. Like, play that game. That means you got to be present on LinkedIn, be present on Alignable, be present on Facebook and so on, so that you have the opportunity for your content to show up. I'm not suggesting that you have to be a influencer, but when you have exposure, when somebody goes checks you out, you're answering a question, and it's happening without you even being involved. That's a kind of a separate subject, but the bigger, broader point: 1,800 plus businesses per one coach. So the opportunity is vast and massive. Okay, but as a believer, as a faith-driven business coach, entrepreneur, and we have a reason, the purpose of why we kind of take this opportunity. So I'm going to kind of not land the plane, but kind of get you focused on this idea. If you're thinking about business coaching in your next chapter as a believer, and you want to earn well, you want to give back, you want to provide for your family, you want flexibility, you're tired of building someone else's dream, all those things, we see that as a significant opportunity. Our posture and how we start is different. When we look at, there's one important verse for BJ at least, and that's Proverbs 27:17. It's the whole iron sharpening iron. And so as we begin to interact with what we call it, in a traditional training process, the prospect. But let's take the word prospect out for a moment. So here's the opportunity. There's 1,800 businesses. That means that only a fraction of them are going to get the help that they need. The average coach has about 7 to 8 or so one-on-one clients. Now, there are some outliers where someone will have 12, 15, but that's not the average. 7. I mean, it's not even in contest about being flooded. And I'll hear that sometimes. We're like, I went to a chamber function, and that function already has a coach, and market's already flooded. Well, go to find another function. I'm like, so what? There's plenty of opportunity out there, right? But the reason why they can't really compete and get competitive is the disparage between operating the business and growing the business. So we start as believers, as faith-driven entrepreneurs, as business coaches. The purpose and the heart starts with transformation. And when you look at Proverbs 27:17, it's suggesting that my desire and the reason why I'm going to engage with this individual to start with is because I care about them and their outcome. And so as you begin to build relationships, the goal should be, first and foremost, well beyond getting a client, is that you care about their output. So that means I'm going to treat everyone the same way. I understand just through the process, some of the folks that I'm interacting with that I see that I want to bring transformation to will become clients. The becoming client part is the result of the investment of relationship building, but a lot of people start with the third door, if you will. In other words, they start with the thinking that, hey, that person could become a client. And my experience has been when you have that type of framework, it kind of dampens how you're going to interact with them. Because if you begin to start to sense that, well, maybe they won't become a client or they're not the right fit, we back off a little bit in providing value. So again, looking at Proverbs 27:17, that's it. Transformation, and that our goal and our job is to start as a thought leader. And that means presenting ideas to the business community that leads them in thought on things that they may not recognize on their own. That's called accountability. That's the iron sharpening iron. So in a traditional sales process, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with sales. There's nothing wrong with persuasion. I joke all the time. If you've listened enough on this podcast, you've heard me say it. My daughter, we did it last night, persuades me all the time on getting ice cream. 15 years old. She loves ice cream. Dad loves my daughter. I take her to get ice cream, especially in the summertime. So nothing wrong with persuasion, nothing wrong with sales, but I just think from my perspective, when you lead differently, number one, whether the prospects that you're engaging with are believers or not, there's just this idea that, hey, this feels different. This sounds different. This smells different, right? And a lot of that ends up being just psychological. And that's what magnetism really is all about. But it's happening because your purpose starts from a biblical approach. I care about this individual. I care about their business. I care about the families that this business employs. I understand the economics of how the economy works. When this business is healthy, they can pay their people better. They can hire more people. They can give back to their communities, their churches, ministries, wherever they feel God's calling them to give, because of the transformation that I want to bring from a biblical perspective. And when you lead like that every day, all the time, I've lived it, I teach it, and I'll watch it happen on a consistent basis. You have the opportunity in your own sphere to create a significant amount of value. And let's just, in round numbers, if you were, speaking with 100 people, rather than saying that, hey, I've got an opportunity to get 100 clients, it's like, no, I'm going to bring value and transformation to these 100 prospects, these 100 people, period. We're done with that. I understand that just some of these folks could be 10, could be 15, could be 20. They're going to become a client because of the interaction. We had recently a conversation with someone, and they had a different perspective. They're like, I'm not going to, look, what I do is valuable. I know what I can do. I know what I can provide. And if that individual doesn't see the value, I'm just kind of not talking to them. And I just don't think that that's the right approach. You can do it. That's your call. But at the end of the day, I just believe that when we lead again from a biblical foundation, from a purpose foundation, Proverbs 27:17, the goal is I want to sharpen the iron with others and help them succeed. Now, we do that with our process. We call it the focus method. We have an entire business coaching system that fulfills that obligation and that reason and that purpose. Okay? And so we're going to be serious about it. But it's how we start. It's our posture. It's our reason. It's our purpose. It's why it matters. So the opportunity is significant. And I'll leave you with this. I believe that those that they see it, one, as overly competitive. They don't understand the data. When they approach it very salesy, now they're competing in the red ocean. When they're like, man, I just don't want to have to do, all that extra work, then they will struggle. Versus the coach who understands that, wow, it is a wide open market, but my posture as a faith-driven individual is that I'm going to approach this differently. And I understand that a number of these folks, it'll be a smaller number out of the ones that I'm interacting with, they're going to lean in, be magnetized to my message, and they're going to want help. Yes, you'll follow up a process of, activity. I need to do X amount of acts. Sure, we got to do all those things. But purpose, reasoning in the beginning transcends all the structure, all the reasonings, all the processes, all the tools, because you can use all the tools in the world. But if you start off in the beginning, off the wrong foot of why, I just think that it just makes it difficult, at least as far as I'm concerned. So I hope that message resonates with you, regardless of where you are in your journey of your life. And so the opportunity is real. You can have flexibility, you can have freedom, you can have income by bringing transformation and value as a thought leader, as a business strategist, helping people to improve their profitability so that they can be healthy, give back, hire more people, be a part of the fabric of the economy, and driving it forward. There you go. Again, if you're curious about how this works inside what we do, about how we give you a complete and total done with you collaborative business coaching system, and hit us up, businesscoachmastery.com. There might be a link in an email. If you receive this episode in an email, there's probably a link to do the very same thing there. All right. Until next time, take care.